Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ricky C. Williams podcast, the number one anger management podcast in the world. Thanks to each and every one of you that comes back week after week to listen, learn, and to grow. Today we're going to be tackling a very important topic that highlights how anger, trauma, and violence intersect in this world. First, we're going to be discussing a new bill that's targeting tech domestic abuse. That's right, I said tech domestic abuse. And there are so many forms of technology right now in this ever evolving world of ours that a lot of abusers are using to harm victims, right? Terrorize them. And we're going to be discussing how this bill can actually protect survivors as well as hold perpetrators accountable. Secondly, we're going to shift to Colt Gray, that is the Georgia shooter, but we're going to be discussing the broken home life, which is an amazing conversation to have because we have to talk about all the tragic events that force a lot of children to act out. What's behind the person that did this? What got them to this point? We're going to talk about family instability. We're going to talk about trauma and the lack of mental health support. And what happens when all of this goes unchecked and how we can prevent this in our lives. So don't skip this one as we explore the details, the broader implications for our society, and what we can do to combat domestic abuse. Let's get started. You're listening to the Ricky C. Williams podcast, where we delve deep into the complex world of anger. And in each episode, we explore what triggers it, how it affects our lives, and most importantly, how we can manage it. So let's first focus on this bill, this California Senate Bill 1394, that hopefully will pass. It aims to stop tech-enabled domestic violence, where people are using now GPS to find and harass their victims and intimidate survivors. So right now, people are using every aspect of tech. They can hack your GPS system, they can hack your computers, hack your phones. And so what this bill is doing is forcing car manufacturers to disable access to connected vehicles. If you both have cars, if you are both in relationships and you share a car, and within 2 days, the car manufacturer can actually disable GPS locations, which is amazing. And once a survivor provides documentation to show that there's like a restraining order, proof of legal separation, that the car can, be disconnected in that way, which is amazing. The technology for this GPS situation really, it makes sense. I wish once someone has that restraining order, everything could be disabled. There are many people that I've worked with. People know exactly where they go to the park when they're going to the park, and they just so happen to be there. That's not a coincidence. Or when someone goes directly to the store and they just so happen to be there, that's not a coincidence. Or if you're on the internet, they can follow you that way. So I'm glad they're doing it for the car. I think they need to do it for everything right now because everything is digital and we need to be proficient with everything being disconnected from that person. Even the Wi-Fi, I believe, should also, be disconnected from the other person. There are so many issues that we face in this age where people can hack, where people can shut down, you know, every aspect of your life. They can get into your bank accounts now. They can target you by saying, hey, your phone has been hacked. Click on this button. And we're so used to doing everything by the computer, we'll click the button. We won't even call the phone company to see what happened. We'll just click the button and just try to hurry up and resolve it because our lives are so busy. So I think that we need to be vigilant with separating everything and not be targeted. We really need to focus. If your phone, prime example, this happened to me. If your phone has been hacked, call. Don't click a button because it could be someone phishing to get into your actual phone. A lot of times we check our emails through the phone and then we'll click the button, then they have full access. So let's not do that. Or scan certain things nowadays. If you scan a package that you didn't order anything, do not scan that package. Because again, someone can get into your phone. So let's be very vigilant when it comes to that. So I think it's Governor Newsom signed a bill that would make California a leader in protecting survivors, which is a great thing for California. I think this needs to be in all states, necessary. There are too many people that are getting harmed because of obsessive people who just want to bring violence and just destruction to your life. So kudos to California for that, being a leader with that. Now, we definitely have to move on to something that is horrible. Death is always horrible when it comes to this, and it seems like we are normalizing school shootings, which we should not. And we're going to talk about Colt Gray, a 14-year-old kid, man, who did the unthinkable. And a lot of times we always just focus on that. I think we need to take a few steps back. As I tell everyone, in order to count to 10, you start with 0, and then you move to 10. Let's focus on the trauma that happens to all children, not just one set of children, not based off of race, but all children who go through situations as Colt. There are a lot of people, especially when I was teaching truancy, I taught a lot of kids that had anger issues, and they all go through similar things. So we're going to discuss that, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into who this child is, because he represents the majority of children in broken homes. So let's go a little bit deeper how he grew up in a neglectful home. His mom was in and out of jail, which most children who become violent grow up in that type of environment where one parent is in jail, in and out of jail. And we never focus on how this affects the child. We never talks about how they feel. They cannot compartmentalize how adults can. It's, you neglected me, you left me, you're in jail, I'm hurt. I'm telling you, this is crucial for most children that grow up in single parent homes, and that single parent is either on drugs or prostitute or gangbanger, dead because of violence. A lot of these children become violent. And as we see, his mom has a criminal record that spanned over 17 years in 4 different counties in in Georgia. And she was just recently incarcerated. And Colt's father, even after CPSs came to his home, even after Colt stated that he was going to shoot up the school in 2023, he still purchased a gun for Christmas. I want to say this. I want everyone to understand this. There will never be a coup in the United States. It won't. Maybe for 30 minutes, but that's it. You could talk about January 6th, fine. Nothing really happened. But there will not be an uprising. So you don't have to teach your children how to shoot guns. Again, this guy married a woman who's in and out of jail. So I doubt if you are a CEO of a company that you're always traveling, so therefore you need your child to learn how to shoot guns. In this day and age, let's not teach children how to shoot guns. If they need to protect themselves, let's fight. Take them to a dojo, teach them how to fight. But shooting guns is not the correct way of showing children, especially in an environment. And if CPS was called, if social workers came by, I believe, this is just my belief, that all guns need to be taken from the home and a parent's license should be suspended for 2 years. Why is that? Because if a child has access to guns in an environment where it's horrible, they're more likely to do something because they're angry. And, oh, let's go get a gun and let's go shoot. It's not what should happen. Let's truly focus on that. Every school shooting, every child had access to a weapon. So if CPS is called or a social worker has to come out, if a child even threatens to shoot somebody, it should be automatic. We're going to take the guns out of your home. This is just my view. You could disagree with me. But there are too many children, there are too many families that have been destroyed because a child whose brain isn't fully developed has access to a weapon because of an irresponsible parent. And now lives are forever changed. The holidays are coming up, and people are going to be mourning their children or their wife or their husband. There's not going to be an uprising. So stop saying, oh, we're going to teach our babies who are afraid of the dark, who think Jason and Michael Myers are real, to give them weapons. We need to think a little bit more. And here's another thing. When Colt stated that he was going to shoot up the school, they had an investigation, but they didn't have enough evidence. That should be enough. There's too many children that stated that they were going to do something and then actually followed through. Just so, again, for me, I would think taking guns out the home of a child who says this, do a proper investigation, and also suspend the gun license of the parents for 2 years, and also get therapy. Should say something. It's not, well, I did my investigation, nothing happens. I'm sorry, that's not good enough, because these people and these parents are crying right now. We need to do better as a society, because that little boy was screaming for help. If CPS comes out more than once, screaming for help, and people within their family and neighbors also called, and nothing still happened. I volunteered for CASA, that's Court-Approved Special Advocates. And as I was going through the training, it showed that if CPS comes out to minority families, children are taken a lot more than their white counterparts. It's crazy, but that's just the stats. So a woman who has a criminal history has been shown to talk down, lock them out of homes, the dad verbally abusing them, and nothing happened. They did not remove those children from the home. There is no counseling, no therapy from school, social work, the state, nothing. Here's the end result. Another shooting at a school. We need to do better. Again, as a society, it's too many times that people have called the cops, called CPS with their concerns. They see how children are at school. Either you're too quiet and want to be antisocial, or you too rambunctious and trying to fight everyone. It's not healthy. People see it and they don't say anything. And if we don't, this is going to be the result. There's so many people who now want to talk about this, but when this has happened in the 2000s, how many times have they had mass shootings at school? We should not normalize this one bit, but we do. We need to focus on our loved ones. We need to focus on their mental health. And there's nothing wrong with talking to a therapist. I am going to tell you, every Tuesday, I talk to a therapist. I have to be the best that I can be for my children. I personally talk to a therapist every Tuesday. The investment is worth it. I have to have a clear head. I have to have the best environment. Because if I do not, my children will suffer. So let's talk about the factors that contribute to violent children behavior. One of the biggest ones, I think this is a Yale study, I believe, where it states that biological factors and genetics may play a role in aggression. Their environment, for sure, definitely contributes. So if we talk about this young man, or the majority of children who act out, who are violent, their environment plays a critical role into the way they respond to authority, the way they respond to conflict. Is their environment. What do they see at home? What do they see on the weekends? What do they see with their mom? What do they see with their father? What about the trauma that they've seen? What about the trauma that they've been through? You never talk about that. Not until it's too late. I think we should be more observant as teachers, parents, friends, family members, and have a conversation about what actually is going on. We stop talking. We stop loving. We stop this. And this is what's going on within our society. Stay to yourself, have blinders on, and not care. I think you care silently, but to vocalize it, it's like you'd rather not rock the boat. And these are the outcomes. Another aspect of why children act out violently is because of family dysfunction. To know that your mother, who's supposed to be a nurturer, has been in and out of jail and have a criminal history spanning over 17 years. How does that affect a child? Again, teaching truancy. There are a lot of children whose parents were in and out of jail. I'll even go to elementary schools and talk, and a lot of the children who are acting out, parents are in jail. Parents are on drugs. Their parenting styles where you are getting beat for every little thing. They're children. They don't understand. I have an 8 and a 10-year-old. I treat them as if they're 8 and 10. We, parents, have to do better. They're 8 and 10. So what I learned in church was that between 0 and 5, that's when you have your discipline stage. From 6 to 12, that's your teaching phase, where you're teaching them things because they still don't get it. From 13 to 18 is the coaching phase, because now they're entering into their teenage years. So therefore you have to coach them because they're trying to, I guess, test the waters. And from 19 on, you become their friend. Which means from the time they're born until the time they leave, you're active. You're teaching. That's your role as a parent. Not the television, not the teachers, not their friends, but you have to be active, which means you have to be mentally tough. You have to go to therapy. You have to release your childhood traumas so they can be the best that they can be in the future and be productive adults. Substance abuse. Seeing your parent high, having to pick them up off the floor is traumatizing. Always drunk and you have to walk on eggshells so you don't get beat. That's traumatizing a child. And we normalize that. And we shouldn't. Another aspect is the exposure to violence. Beating your child, it's not the way to go. Verbally abusing your child, it's not the way to do things. Mentally abusing your child, it's not the way to do things. Sexually abusing a child, it's not the way to do things. They are angry. They are traumatized. They are hurt. Hurt people hurt people. And the way we're raising our children, they're becoming the new weapons of mass destruction. And we have to do better as a society, as parents. Also, being hit in the head as a child, getting popped in the head and being disrespected, and talking about brain damage. We just don't know how damaged a lot of our children are because, again, as soon as they do something when they're little, 2 or 3, and they drop something, break something, we pop them. A lot of times it's in the head, behind the head, slap them in the face because you're stressed out for the decisions that you made. We must, and we have to do better. Because if not, we will continue talking about abuse as children, and if they get away with it and not get arrested, they become abusers as adults. Abused normally become abusers. So, this is something to think about, something to act upon. This is nothing to normalize. So as a society, we must get better. So I want to say thank you for giving me this time, whether you're walking, whether you're cooking, whether you are at the gym. Stories like these remind us that this is real. It's urgent that we do better to reform our communities. And if you are someone that you know has experienced domestic abuse, please reach out. You go to rickycwilliams.com/blog. A link will be at the end of the show notes for a private call to get the help that you need. Until the next time, I'm Ricky Williams, urging you to stay informed, stay engaged. Now, GBG, go be great.